My husband raised his glass at our 20th anniversary dinner, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "To the woman who finally made her leave." And in that moment, I realized I no longer recognized the man I'd spent 2 decades loving. The restaurant went silent. Every eye at the surrounding tables turned toward us. My hand trembled as I held my wine glass, the liquid threatening to spill over the rim. I could feel my face burning, that hot flush of shame crawling up my neck. "Marcus, what?" I started, but he cut me off with a laugh. "What? Can't a man be honest on his anniversary?" He gestured broadly to the other diners. 20 years, folks. 20 long years." An older couple at the next table looked away quickly. A younger woman 2 tables over whispered something to her date. The air felt thick, suffocating. I wanted to disappear into the floor. Then the waitress, the same blonde who'd been serving us all evening with that knowing smile, leaned down between us. Her perfume was cloying, cheap. She placed one manicured hand on the table and whispered loud enough for Marcus to hear. "He's been coming here every Tuesday for 6 months. Always requests my section. Always leaves $100 tip." She straightened up, her lips curved in something between pity and satisfaction, placed the check face down on the table, and walked away. Her hips swayed deliberately as she moved toward the kitchen. My chest felt like it was caving in. The room started to spin, but then I heard a chair scrape across the floor. My best friend Rachel, who'd been sitting with her husband David at a table near the window, a surprise I'd orchestrated weeks ago because I was so excited to celebrate, stood up. She didn't come over. She just stood there, her napkin falling from her lap, staring at Marcus like she'd just watched him kick a dog. "Sarah," she said, her voice cutting through the murmur of the restaurant. "Come here, now." Marcus's face went red. "Rachel, stay out of this." "Come here, Sarah," she repeated, louder this time. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just sat there, staring at the check on the table, watching a water ring slowly spread across the leather holder. 6 months earlier, everything had been different. Or at least, I'd believed it was. It was May, and Marcus and I were sitting on our back deck, watching the sunset over the lake. Our property in upstate New York had been my dream. 3 acres, a garden I'd spent years cultivating, a dock where we'd spent countless summer evenings. Our kids, Emma and Jake, were both away at college now. Emma was finishing her junior year at Cornell. Jake was a freshman at Syracuse. After 18 years of soccer practices and parent-teacher conferences and never having a moment to ourselves, this was supposed to be our time. Marcus had pulled me close that evening, his arm around my shoulders. 20 years, Sarah. Can you believe it? "Barely," I'd said, laughing. "Feels like yesterday we were fighting over whose turn it was to change diapers. We should do something special for our anniversary, really special." He'd kissed my temple. "You deserve it. You work so hard at the hospital. You take care of everything here. Let me plan something." I'd felt so happy in that moment, so secure, he says. We'd weathered the hard years, the miscarriage at year 3 that nearly broke us, the financial crisis at year 7 when Marcus's construction business almost went under, his mother's death at year 12 that left him depressed for months. I'd held us together through all of it. And now, finally, we were on the other side. That's when he suggested we hire a cleaning service. "You're always exhausted on weekends," he said. "Let's get some help around the house. Give you your Saturdays back." It seemed thoughtful, sweet even. I'd been working double shifts at the hospital. I'm a nurse in the ICU, and coming home to clean a 3-bedroom house was wearing me down. So I agreed. The woman who showed up that first Tuesday was named Jennifer, mid-30s, blonde, with that kind of aggressive prettiness that makes other women uncomfortable. Tight jeans, low-cut top, too much makeup for 9 in the morning. She insisted everyone call her Jenny. "Your home is gorgeous," she'd gushed. running her hand along our granite countertops like she was caressing something precious. Marcus has such excellent taste. I'd been taking off my coat. I'd stayed home that morning to let her in and show her around. Well, I picked most of the finishes during the renovation, but thank you. Oh, she'd looked at me then, just for a second, and something flickered behind those bright blue eyes, something cold and calculating. But then she smiled again, all sweetness. Of course, I can tell. A woman's touch. She'd asked me to show her around, where we kept the cleaning supplies, which rooms to prioritize. As we walked through the house, she peppered me with questions. How long have you been married? Do you have children? What do you do for work? Does Marcus work from home? The last question should have set off alarm bells. But I was tired, and she seemed friendly enough, so I answered. Sometimes he owns a construction company, so he's usually on job sites, but he does paperwork here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Perfect, she'd said, smiling. I'll make sure not to disturb him. The first red flag came 2 weeks later. I came home from work early. A patient had been transferred to another facility, and my shift ended at 3 instead of 7. Marcus's truck was in the driveway. So was Jenny's beat-up Honda Civic. It was a Tuesday. I walked in through the garage and heard laughter from the kitchen. Not just polite laughter, the kind of laughter that comes from real amusement. From connection. I hadn't heard Marcus laugh like that in years. I rounded the corner and found them. Marcus was leaning against the kitchen counter, his arms crossed, watching Jenny clean the windows above the sink. She was stretching up on her toes, her shirt riding up to expose a strip of tanned skin. They weren't touching. They weren't doing anything wrong, exactly, but the way he looked at her, focused, intent, alive, was a way he hadn't looked at me since before Jake was born. Oh, hey, babe, Marcus said, startled. He pushed off the counter like he'd been caught at something. Didn't expect you home yet. Client meeting got canceled. I set my purse on the counter, watching Jenny spray the glass. She still hadn't turned around. How's everything going? Great, Jenny said brightly, finally glancing back at me. Your husband was just telling me about that amazing fishing trip you two took in Montana last summer. Sounds incredible. The room tilted slightly. We hadn't been on a fishing trip last summer. Marcus had gone to Montana with his brother Greg, without me. I'd stayed home because I couldn't get the time off work. Right, I said slowly, looking at Marcus. The fishing trip. He met my eyes for just a second, then looked away. Yeah, well, I should let you work, Jenny. I've got calls to make. He left the kitchen. Jenny went back to the windows, humming. I stood there for a long moment, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Had Marcus lied to her, pretending I'd been on that trip? Or had he simply not corrected her when she assumed? And why would he be talking to our cleaning lady about his personal life at all? Jenny, I said carefully, did Marcus tell you I was on that trip? She turned, her expression innocent. Oh, I must have misunderstood. Sorry, she laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm always mixing things up. My ex-husband used to get so mad at me for it. She turned back to the windows, and I left the kitchen feeling unsettled in a way I couldn't name. That night, I mentioned it to Marcus. You told Jenny about your fishing trip? He was watching TV, barely paying attention. What? The Montana trip. You were talking to her about it. So, we were just making conversation, Sarah. She's here for 4 hours. Am I supposed to ignore her the whole time? No, but she thought I was there. Did you tell her I was? He looked at me then, irritation flashing across his face. I don't remember exactly what I said. Why does it matter? It doesn't. Then why are you interrogating me about a casual conversation with the cleaning lady? I backed off, but the unease stayed with me, a low hum of anxiety I couldn't shake. Over the next month, Jenny's presence in our home expanded like a slow-growing tumor. She started coming twice a week instead of once. I asked her to, Marcus explained when I questioned it. The house looks so much better with more frequent attention. And honestly, Sarah, you've been so stressed. This helps. He wasn't wrong. I had been stressed. The ICU had been understaffed, and I'd been picking up extra shifts. Coming home to a clean house should have been a relief. But Jenny didn't just clean. She reorganized. My spice cabinet was rearranged alphabetically. My bathroom products were moved from the cabinet under the sink to the linen closet. My favorite coffee mugs, the handmade ones Emma had given me for Mother's Day, were pushed to the back of the cabinet, replaced at the front by newer matching white ones I didn't remember buying. Jenny thought these looked cleaner, Marcus said when I asked about the mugs. More cohesive. Jenny thought? I stared at him. Marcus, those mugs are from our daughter. He shrugged. They're still there, Sarah. Just moved. Don't make a big deal out of everything. But it wasn't just the mugs. My gardening gloves disappeared from the mudroom. The throw pillows I'd chosen for the couch were replaced with ones in different colors. Even my favorite dish soap, the lavender-scented one, was swapped out for unscented. When I mentioned it to Marcus, he sighed. She's trying to be helpful. She thinks unscented is better for people with allergies. Neither of us has allergies. Sarah. He looked at me like I was being difficult. You're micromanaging the cleaning lady. Just let her do her job. Psychological manipulation. By July, I started to feel crazy. Little things kept happening that Marcus insisted I was imagining or misremembering. A necklace he'd given me for our 10th anniversary went missing from my jewelry box. When I asked him about it, he said, "Are you sure you didn't move it? You've been so scattered lately." I tore the bedroom apart looking for it, never found it. Then there was the grocery incident. I'd made a list for Marcus to pick up a few things on his way home from a job site: milk, bread, coffee, the expensive dark chocolate I liked. He came home with everything except the chocolate. "It wasn't on the list," he said. "Yes, it was. I wrote it down." He pulled the list from his pocket and showed me. The chocolate wasn't there. But I knew I'd written it down. I'd watched myself write it. "You probably meant to write it and forgot," he said gently. "You've been working so hard, babe. Your mind is going in a million directions." A week later, I couldn't find my car keys. I was supposed to meet Rachel for lunch, and I was going to be late. I searched everywhere: my purse, the kitchen counter, the mudroom. Finally, I found them in the refrigerator, sitting on the shelf next to the milk. "I must have put them there when I was distracted," I told Rachel over lunch, laughing it off. But I didn't remember doing it. I didn't remember being anywhere near the refrigerator that morning. "Sarah," Rachel said carefully, setting down her fork, "how are things? Really?" "Fine. Why?" "You seem off, stressed. Marcus treating you okay?" "Of course," I said automatically. "Why would you ask that?" She hesitated. "David ran into him at the hardware store last week. Said Marcus seemed different, distracted, secretive almost." "He's been busy with work," I said, defensive. "Big commercial project." Rachel didn't look convinced, but she let it drop. By August, I realized I was seeing my friends less and less. Rachel would call to make plans, and somehow they'd always fall through. I'd double book myself by accident, or Marcus would schedule something without telling me, or I'd be so exhausted from work that I'd cancel at the last minute. "You're becoming a hermit," Rachel texted after I canceled on her for the third time in a month. She wasn't wrong, but every time I tried to make plans, something got in the way. The worst part was what happened with my kids. Emma called one Sunday in late August, excited about an internship she'd landed for the fall semester. I'd been in the garden when my phone rang, and by the time I got inside, the call had gone to voicemail. When I called her back 20 minutes later, she was short with me. Never mind, Mom. I already told Dad everything. Honey, I was just outside. I came as soon as I saw. It's fine. Dad actually listened. He asked questions. You're always too busy anyway. The words stung. Emma, that's not fair. Isn't it? She sighed. Look, I've got to go. Talk later. She hung up before I could respond. When I confronted Marcus about it, he held up his hands. What was I supposed to do? Not talk to my own daughter? She called. I answered. I can't help it if you were outside playing in the dirt. I was gardening, and she's upset with me now. Then maybe you should make yourself more available. He said it so casually, like it was obvious, like I was failing as a mother. Jake started calling Marcus more than me too. When I asked him about it, he said, Dad just gets it, you know? He doesn't stress about every little thing. I felt like I was losing them, like I was becoming invisible in my own family. By September, I barely recognized my own home. The living room had been repainted, a color I hadn't chosen. Jenny suggested it, Marcus said. That beige was so dated. This gray is much more modern. My herb garden by the kitchen window was gone, replaced with succulents. Easier to maintain, Marcus explained. Jenny's been watering them. Even the photos on the mantel had changed. The family portraits from our beach vacation 3 years ago were gone, replaced with professional shots Marcus had apparently commissioned without telling me. In them, he and the kids looked perfect, smiling. I looked tired, older than my 55 years, my smile not quite reaching my eyes. When did we take these? I asked. A few months ago. You forgot? He frowned. Sarah, are you feeling okay? You've been so forgetful lately. I stared at the photos. I had no memory of that photo session. None. The breaking point came in mid-September, 2 weeks before our anniversary. I came home from work and found Jenny sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, not cleaning, just sitting, like she lived there. Oh, hi, Sarah, she said brightly. Marcus said I could take a break. I made coffee. Hope you don't mind. I minded. I minded very much. But before I could say anything, Marcus walked in from his office. There you are, he said to Jenny, completely ignoring me. Did you find those papers I asked about? Right here. She handed him a manila folder. Our fingers brushed, and she smiled. What papers? I asked. They both looked at me like I'd interrupted something important. Just some receipts Jenny needed for her tax records, Marcus said smoothly. I'm helping her organize her business expenses. Since when do you help the cleaning lady with her taxes? The words came out sharper than I intended. Marcus's face hardened. Her name is Jenny, and since she asked for help and I have experience with small business accounting, is that a problem? No, because it sounds like you have a problem with me being nice to someone who works hard and could use some guidance. Jenny stood up, all apologetic sweetness. I should go. I'm sorry if I caused any trouble. You didn't, Marcus said firmly, his eyes on me. Sarah's just had a long day. After Jenny left, Marcus turned to me. What the hell was that? What was what? Marcus, she was sitting in our kitchen like she owned the place. She was taking a break. Jesus, Sarah, when did you become so suspicious and controlling? I'm not. You are. You've been paranoid for months, questioning everything I do, everything I say, making me feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own house. He ran his hand through his hair. I'm worried about you. Maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist or something. The suggestion hit me like a slap. You think I need therapy? I think you've been under a lot of stress, and it's changing you. You're not the woman I married. He left the room, leaving me standing there, doubting everything. Was he right? Was I being paranoid? Was I losing my mind? That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was the problem, if I was imagining things, if the stress of work had finally broken something in me. but deep down, in a place I was afraid to acknowledge, I knew something was very, very wrong. The truth came crashing down on a Thursday afternoon, exactly 1 week before our anniversary. I'd called in sick to work, something I never did, but I'd barely slept in days. My hands had been shaking during my morning shift, and my supervisor had taken one look at me and sent me home. "You're no good to your patients like this, Sarah. Go rest." I pulled into the driveway at 2 p.m. and saw Jenny's car. Thursday wasn't her usual day, but by that point, she seemed to be at our house more often than not. I'd stopped questioning it because every time I did, Marcus made me feel like I was being unreasonable. I came in through the front door instead of the garage, moving quietly because my head was pounding. I just wanted to take some ibuprofen and lie down. That's when I heard their voices coming from Marcus's office. Can't keep doing this," Marcus was saying. "She's starting to notice things." "Let her notice." Jenny's voice was cold, nothing like the sweet tone she used around me. "What's she going to do? She's so medicated she can barely think straight." My blood went cold. Medicated? "I still think we're moving too fast," Marcus said. If she what? Figures it out?" Jenny laughed, sharp and cruel. "Marcus, she thinks she's losing her mind. Yesterday she asked me if I'd seen her car keys, and I watched her put them in the refrigerator herself 20 minutes earlier. The Ambien in her coffee is working perfectly." I gripped the door frame to keep from falling. Ambien in my coffee. "Once we're married," Jenny continued, "this house becomes half mine." That's what your lawyer said, right? Community property state. And with her history of mental instability, which we've been documenting so carefully, getting full custody of that inheritance from her parents shouldn't be hard. "The kids will be a problem," Marcus said. "The kids are adults. They already think she's losing it. Emma told me herself last week that she's worried about her mom's memory. Your son thinks she's having a breakdown." Jenny's voice was satisfied, smug. "By the time we're done, no one will believe a word she says." And the anniversary dinner? Perfect timing. Public breakdown at the restaurant. Everyone sees it. You play the concerned husband, and then we have her committed for a psychiatric evaluation. 72 hours minimum. That gives us time to move forward with the paperwork. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The room was spinning. "You're sure about the inheritance amount?" Jenny asked. $2.3 million. Her parents left it in a trust, but once I have power of attorney on grounds of mental incompetence, I can access it. Plus, the house is worth another $800,000, and her retirement account has about $400,000. Marcus's voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing a business transaction. "Split it down the middle after the divorce, and we're both set." And she'll be in a facility somewhere, drooling into her oatmeal, wondering what happened. Jenny laughed again. "God, this was easier than I thought. When you hired me through that service, I thought it would take months to get her to this point. But she's so trusting, so pathetic. She practically broke herself." The medication helped. The medication was genius. Coffee every morning, little blue pill crushed up in there. No wonder she can't remember shit. Between the Ambien and the gaslighting, she's completely destabilized. My hand was over my mouth, holding back a scream. 6 months. 6 months of this. Every morning, Marcus had made my coffee, brought it to me with a kiss. "You work so hard, babe. Let me take care of you." And I'd drunk it every single day. The forgetfulness, the confusion, the keys in the refrigerator, the missing necklace. She'd probably stolen it. The paranoia Marcus kept telling me I was experiencing. It was all real, all of it. I backed away from the office door as quietly as I could, my heart hammering so hard I thought they'd hear it. I grabbed my purse from where I'd dropped it by the front door and walked out, forcing myself to move normally, to not run. I got in my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. I pulled into a parking lot 3 blocks away and sat there gasping for air, trying not to vomit. They were going to institutionalize me, take everything my parents had left me, everything I'd worked for. And Marcus, the man I'd loved for 20 years, the father of my children, had planned it all. I pulled out my phone and called Rachel with trembling fingers. Sarah, are you okay? You sound... I need you. My voice broke. Rachel, I need you right now. Can you meet me? Where are you? I looked around, trying to orient myself. The Target parking lot on Route 9. I'm 15 minutes away. Stay there. Don't move. She made it in 12 and Rachel pulled up next to my car and immediately got in my passenger seat. One look at my face and she grabbed my hand. What happened? I told her everything. The words poured out in a jagged, broken stream. The coffee, the medication, the conversation I'd overheard. Jenny, the plan to have me committed, the money, all of it. When I finished, Rachel's face was white. Jesus Christ, Sarah, we need to call the police. And tell them what? That I overheard my husband talking about drugging me? I have no proof. No one's going to believe me. He's been setting this up for months. Everyone already thinks I'm unstable. Even our kids think I'm losing it. Then we get you to a doctor. We get blood work done. We prove there's Ambien in your system. It's been 6 hours since I had coffee. It's probably out of my system by now. And even if it's not, Marcus will just say, I've been taking it myself, that I'm confused about it. I was crying now, ugly gasping sobs. Rachel, he's thought of everything. He's been so careful. What about the anniversary dinner? You said they're planning something for next week? I wiped my eyes. They're going to trigger some kind of public breakdown. Make it look like I'm having a psychiatric episode. Then he'll have me committed. Rachel was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then her eyes sharpened. So we don't go. What? You don't go to the anniversary dinner. You leave, right now. Come stay with David and me. We'll figure out. My phone rang. Marcus. I stared at it, my stomach lurching. Don't answer it, Rachel said. But I knew if I didn't, he'd know something was wrong. I took a breath and answered, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey, where are you? His voice was tight. I came out of my office and you were gone. Your supervisor called and said you left work sick. I'm fine. I just needed some air. Went for a drive. Where? Just around. I'm coming home now. Good. We need to talk. He hung up. I looked at Rachel. I have to go back. Sarah, no, that's insane. If I don't, he'll know I'm on to him. I need time to figure this out, to get evidence, to protect myself. I was thinking fast now, the nurse in me taking over, the part that stayed calm in emergencies. I'll stop drinking the coffee. I'll dump it in the sink when he's not looking. I'll clear my head and I'll figure out what to do. This is a bad idea. It's the only idea I have right now. I drove home. Marcus was waiting in the kitchen, his arms crossed. Jenny's car was gone. You scared me, he said, but his eyes were cold. Running off like that. I told you, I just needed air. I'm sorry. He studied me for a long moment. Are you okay? You look upset. Just tired? The shift was rough. Come here. He pulled me into a hug, and I had to force myself not to recoil. His hands on my back felt like a threat now, not comfort. I worry about you, you know. You've been so stressed. I know. Why don't you take a bath? I'll order dinner. Your favorite, Thai food. The thought of eating anything he gave me made my skin crawl. Actually, I'm not hungry. I think I'll just go to bed early. Something flickered in his eyes. Suspicion? You sure? Yeah, I just need sleep. I went upstairs, locked the bathroom door, and stood in the shower fully clothed, crying silently while the water ran. I had to hold it together. I had to be smart, but I had no idea how. The next morning, Marcus brought me coffee in bed like always. "Thought you could use this," he said with a smile. I smiled back. "You're so sweet. Thank you." The moment he left the room, I poured it into the plant on my nightstand. My hands were shaking. Over the next 3 days, I played the perfect wife. I smiled. I drank the coffee he didn't see me dump. I pretended everything was fine while my mind raced, trying to figure out a plan. But Marcus was watching me more carefully now. I could feel it, and Jenny was at the house constantly, her eyes tracking my every move. On Monday, 4 days before the anniversary dinner, I tried to tell Emma. I called her during my lunch break at work, my heart pounding. "Honey, I need to talk to you about something, about your dad." "Mom, I'm in the middle of class. Can this wait?" "It's important. I really need you to listen to me." She sighed. "Okay, what?" "Your father, he's been doing things, bad things. He's been drugging my coffee, and there's this woman, Jenny, and they're planning to—" "Mom, stop." Emma's voice was sharp. "Just stop." "Emma, please, you have to believe me." "Dad called me yesterday. He told me you might say something like this. He said you've been getting worse, that you're paranoid and confused, and that he's been trying to get you help." Her voice cracked. "Mom, he's really worried about you. We all are." The floor dropped out from under me. "He called you? When?" "2 days ago. He said you've been having episodes, that you've been accusing him of things that aren't real." She was crying now. "Mom, please, please just let Dad help you. Let him take you to see someone." "Emma, I'm not crazy. I know how this sounds, but—" "I have to go." She hung up. I sat there in the break room, staring at my phone. He'd gotten to her first. He'd poisoned her against me. And if he'd called Emma, he'd called Jake too. I tried Jake anyway. He didn't answer. He texted back 20 minutes later. "Dad told me you might call. Mom, please get help. We love you." That night, I tried one more time with Marcus. Some desperate part of me thought if I confronted him, if I told him I knew, maybe he'd stop. Maybe somewhere in the man I'd loved for 20 years, there was something worth saving. "Marcus, we need to talk." He looked up from his laptop. "About what?" "About us, about what's been happening." "Okay." He closed the laptop, giving me his full attention. "I'm listening." "I know about Jenny. I know what you've been doing." His face didn't change. "What have I been doing?" "The coffee, the medication, the gaslighting, the plan to have me committed." My voice was shaking but firm. "I heard you, Marcus. I heard everything." For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then he smiled, actually smiled. "Did you? And who do you think is going to believe that?" "I'll get proof. You'll what? Go to the police? Tell them your husband of 20 years has been secretly drugging you, and your only evidence is that you overheard a conversation? A conversation I'll deny ever happened?" He stood up, walking toward me slowly. "Sarah, you've been so unstable lately, so forgetful. Our kids are worried. Your best friend is worried. Your supervisor at work called me last week asking if you were okay because you've been making mistakes. That's because you've been drugging me?" "Prove it." His voice was cold, flat. "Get a blood test." "Oh, wait. Ambien leaves your system in hours, and even if it didn't, I'll just tell everyone you've been taking it yourself, that you're confused, that your memory is failing." He stepped closer. "I've been so careful, Sarah. So very careful. Every conversation, every incident, every concern, documented, time-stamped, witnessed. You think anyone will believe you over me?" I felt tears streaming down my face. "Why? Why are you doing this?" "Because I can. Because you were so easy. Because that inheritance from your parents is sitting there, and you've been sitting on it for 5 years, refusing to invest it, refusing to do anything interesting with it. And because, honestly, I'm bored. I've been bored for years. Jenny makes me feel alive again. I loved you. I know. He said it like it was meaningless. That made it easier. He walked past me, pausing at the door. The anniversary dinner is in 3 days. I suggest you show up and play your part, because if you don't, if you try to run or make a scene before then, I'll have you committed immediately. I already have the paperwork drawn up. One call to Dr. Peterson, who, by the way, I've been talking to about your deteriorating mental state, and you're gone. He left. I sank to the floor, my whole body shaking. I had no proof, no allies, no way out. I was trapped. The night of our anniversary dinner arrived like an execution date. I'd spent 3 days in a fog of terror and helplessness. I'd stopped going to work, called in sick, which only added to Marcus's narrative that I was falling apart. I'd tried to think of a way out, any way out, but every path led to the same place. No one would believe me. Rachel had called twice. I'd let it go to voicemail both times. What could I tell her? That I'd confronted Marcus and he'd won? That he had me exactly where he wanted me? The morning of the dinner, Marcus laid out a dress on our bed. Black, elegant, expensive. One I'd never seen before. "Wear this tonight," he said. "I picked it out for you." I stared at it. "When did you buy this?" "A few weeks ago. Jenny helped me choose it." He smiled. "She has good taste." Of course she did. That afternoon, Jenny showed up at the house even though it wasn't a scheduled cleaning day. She walked past me without a word, went into Marcus's office, and closed the door. I could hear them talking, laughing, planning my destruction probably. I sat in the living room, my living room, in the house I'd helped buy, filled with furniture I'd chosen that had slowly been replaced with things I didn't recognize, and felt completely powerless. At 6 p.m., Marcus came out dressed in a suit. He looked handsome, happy, like a man about to celebrate something wonderful. "Ready?" he asked. I wasn't, but I nodded and went upstairs to change. The dress fit perfectly, which somehow made everything worse. I looked at myself in the mirror, 55 years old, my hair still mostly blonde with distinguished silver streaks, my face showing every one of my years, but still strong, still me. Or at least the me I used to be. Who was I now? A woman who'd been systematically destroyed by the person she trusted most? We drove to the restaurant in silence. It was called Bellissimo, an upscale Italian place on the waterfront, the kind of restaurant that required reservations weeks in advance. Marcus had planned this months ago, back when I'd still thought we were celebrating our love. Now I knew it was the stage for my final humiliation. We walked in, and the hostess smiled brightly. "Mr. and Mrs. Chen, your table is ready. Congratulations on 20 years." I followed Marcus through the restaurant, aware of every eye on us. The dining room was beautiful. White tablecloths, candlelight, a wall of windows overlooking the river. Our table was in the center of the room, positioned perfectly for maximum visibility. That's when I saw Rachel and David. They were sitting at a table near the windows, just like I'd planned months ago, when I'd secretly told Rachel we'd be here, when I'd been so excited about surprising Marcus by having our best friends nearby to celebrate with us. Rachel's face when she saw me was stricken. She'd been calling all week, and I hadn't answered. She stood halfway up, and I gave her the tiniest shake of my head. Not yet. I didn't know what Marcus had planned, but I knew if Rachel interfered too soon, it would only make things worse. Marcus pulled out my chair. I sat. The waitress appeared, young, blonde, pretty. Of course she was. "Welcome. Can I start you with some wine?" "Champagne," Marcus said. "We're celebrating." The waitress left, and Marcus looked at me across the table. In the candlelight, his face was almost tender. If I didn't know better, I'd think he still loved me. 20 years, he said softly. Hard to believe. I said nothing. You've been quiet today. Nervous about something? Should I be? His smile was cold. I guess we'll see. The champagne arrived. The waitress poured 2 glasses, and Marcus raised his. Around us, other diners were starting to notice, the way people do when they see a couple celebrating something. A toast, Marcus announced, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. My hand was shaking as I reached for my glass. This was it. Whatever he had planned, it was happening now. Marcus stood up, and the restaurant started to quiet. People turned to watch. Even the waitstaff paused. This was exactly what he wanted, an audience. To my wife, he said, his voice carrying across the room. 20 years of marriage, 20 years of patience, 20 years of pretending. My stomach dropped. 20 years of watching her deteriorate, of watching her become someone I don't recognize, someone paranoid, unstable, irrational. He looked around the restaurant, playing to the crowd. But tonight, we're here to celebrate anyway, to celebrate the life we built, to celebrate before. He paused dramatically. Before we have to face some hard truths. Marcus, I whispered, don't do this. He ignored me. My wife thinks I'm trying to hurt her. She thinks I'm drugging her coffee. She thinks I'm having an affair with our cleaning lady. She thinks I'm planning to steal her money and have her committed. He laughed, but it was sad. Pained? She's been getting worse for months, making accusations, forgetting things, having episodes. People were staring now, whispering. I could feel their eyes on me, their pity, their judgment. Our children are terrified. They don't know what to do. And I've been trying, God, I've been trying so hard to get her help, but she won't accept it. She won't see reason. That's not true, I said, but my voice was too quiet. No one heard me except him. Marcus raised his glass higher. So, tonight, I want to toast to the woman my wife used to be, to the woman who finally made her leave. His eyes locked on mine. Because the woman sitting here now, I don't recognize her anymore. The restaurant was completely silent. Then the waitress, the one who'd been serving us, leaned down next to our table. She placed one hand on the white tablecloth and looked between Marcus and me. Her expression was strange, not quite sympathetic, more knowing. She leaned close enough that I could smell her perfume and whispered, loud enough for Marcus to hear. He's been coming here every Tuesday for 6 months. Always requests my section. Always leaves $100 tip. She straightened up, placed the check on the table, and added in a normal voice, but that's not all he leaves. Last week, he left his phone unlocked at the table. I'm nosy. I looked. She pulled out her phone. Want to see the text messages, the photos, the emails to his lawyer about declaring you incompetent? Marcus's face went white, then red. You have no right. I have every right. This is my restaurant. My parents own it. She looked at me. I've been watching him for weeks, watching him with that blonde woman, listening to them plan. I thought about minding my business, but then tonight I saw your face, and I knew. She held out her phone to me. It's all here, screenshots, everything. My hands were shaking as I took the phone. There it was, text messages between Marcus and Jenny, talking about the plan, about the medication, about my inheritance, about having me committed. Photos of them together. Email correspondence with a lawyer about power of attorney. Evidence, real, documented, undeniable evidence. I looked up at Marcus. His face had gone from red to gray. You stupid, he started to say to the waitress, but she cut him off. I already sent copies to the police. They're waiting outside, actually. Something about drugging your spouse being a felony. She smiled. My cousin's a cop. He was very interested. Rachel was suddenly at our table, David right behind her. Sarah, oh my God. Marcus stood up abruptly, his chair scraping. This is insane. She's lying. I have the text messages, Marcus. Your text messages from your phone. The waitress's voice was loud now, cutting through the restaurant. Everyone here heard what you said. They heard you admit to gaslighting your wife, to making her think she was crazy. Two police officers walked into the restaurant. Marcus looked around wildly, at the cops, at the staring diners, at me. Sarah, this isn't what it looks like. I can explain. No. My voice was stronger now. I stood up. You can't. For once in 6 months, you can't explain this away. You can't make me doubt what I know is real. One of the officers approached. Marcus Chin, this is a misunderstanding. Sir, we need you to come with us. We have some questions about allegations of spousal drugging and fraud. The restaurant erupted in whispers. Phones came out. People were recording. Marcus's carefully constructed public humiliation of me had become his own destruction, and everyone was watching. The police station was cold and fluorescent, nothing like the candlelit restaurant. I sat in a small room with Rachel on one side and the waitress, whose name, I'd learned, was Sophia, on the other. A detective named Martinez sat across from us. Mrs. Chen, I need you to walk me through everything, she said gently. So I did. All of it. The coffee, the gaslighting, the conversation I'd overheard, my confrontation with Marcus, his threats. When I finished, Detective Martinez nodded. Sophia's evidence corroborates your story. The text messages between your husband and Jennifer Palmer are extensive. They're very clear about their intentions. What happens now? My voice was hoarse from talking. We've arrested Mr. Chen on suspicion of spousal abuse and conspiracy to commit fraud. Jennifer Palmer is being picked up as we speak. We'll need to do a full investigation, but between the text messages, the emails to his lawyer, and your testimony, we have a strong case. What about the medication, the Ambien? That's trickier. It's been days since you last ingested it, so a blood test won't show anything. But your testimony combined with the text messages where they explicitly discuss drugging you should be enough. We'll also be looking at his purchase records, credit card statements, anything that shows he bought Ambien without a prescription. Sophia spoke up. I have something else, too. She pulled out her phone again. 2 weeks ago, Marcus and that Jenny woman had dinner here. They didn't know I was listening, but I recorded part of their conversation. She pressed play. Jenny's voice came through, tinny but clear. Did you crush it fine enough? Last time she almost noticed. Marcus, yeah, it's powder. She'll never know. Few more weeks of this and she'll be totally compliant. Perfect timing for the commitment. Jenny, God, I can't wait to get her out of that house. Have you seen her garden? First thing I'm doing is ripping it up. I hate gardens. The recording clicked off. Detective Martinez looked grim. I'll need a copy of that. Already emailed it to you, Sophia said. I stared at her. Why did you do all this? You don't even know me. Sophia's expression softened. My mom went through something similar. Her second husband tried to have her declared incompetent so he could take her inheritance from my dad. She almost lost everything. I was 17, and I couldn't help her then. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. But I could help you. I started crying then, real deep sobs of relief and grief and exhaustion. Rachel pulled me into her arms. It's over, she whispered. Sarah, it's over. You're safe. But it wasn't quite over yet. The next morning, I met with a lawyer, a sharp woman in her 40s named Catherine Morris, who specialized in family law and fraud cases. You have an excellent case, she said, spreading papers across her desk. Criminal and civil. Marcus is facing charges of spousal abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, and if we can prove the drugging, potentially attempted murder depending on the dosage. Murder? Ambien in large doses can be fatal, especially if the person doesn't know they're taking it and engages in dangerous activities. Driving, for instance. Did you drive while under the influence? I thought about all those mornings, driving to work in a fog, barely able to focus. Yes. Then he put your life at risk knowingly. That's serious. Catherine made a note. Additionally, we're filing for an immediate restraining order. Marcus cannot contact you, come near you, or access any joint assets. We're freezing all accounts pending investigation. What about the house? The house is in both names, but given the circumstances, we'll petition for you to have sole occupancy. He'll have to find somewhere else to live. She smiled. With his assets frozen and facing criminal charges, that's going to be difficult for him. Over the next week, everything unraveled for Marcus. The police found Ambien in his car, a bottle with no prescription, hidden in the glove compartment. Jennifer Palmer, when questioned, tried to claim she knew nothing, but the text messages proved otherwise. She was charged as an accessory. Marcus's lawyer, the one he'd been consulting about having me declared incompetent, came forward voluntarily with all their correspondence. I had concerns about Mr. Chen's requests, he told the police, but he assured me his wife was genuinely ill. When I saw the news about his arrest, I realized I'd been lied to. I want to cooperate fully. Emma and Jake came home from school within days of Marcus's arrest. Emma burst through my door crying, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you." I held her while she sobbed. "He manipulated you, honey. That's what he does." "I should have known. I should have trusted you." Jake was quieter, but his guilt was just as heavy. "Dad called me so many times, telling me you were sick, that you needed help. He sounded so convincing." "He's had practice," I said sadly. The story broke in the local news. Local businessman arrested for drugging wife, attempting to steal inheritance. Within days, it had spread to regional news, then social media. Marcus's construction business collapsed as clients pulled their contracts. His reputation was destroyed. Jenny lost her cleaning business. No one wanted to hire someone who'd conspired to abuse a vulnerable woman. Her face was all over the news, her name synonymous with betrayal. The anniversary dinner debacle had been recorded by multiple diners and went viral. Marcus's toast, his cruelty, his public humiliation attempt, and then Sophia's intervention, the arrival of the police, his face as he was led out in handcuffs. Millions of views, thousands of comments. Karma is real. That waitress is a hero. I hope he rots in prison. The humiliation he'd planned for me had become his own, magnified 1,000 times over. 2 months later, Marcus took a plea deal. 5 years in prison for spousal abuse, fraud conspiracy, and reckless endangerment. Jenny took a deal too, 3 years. The day the sentencing was finalized, Catherine called me. "It's over. He's going away. And Sarah, the judge awarded you everything. The house, all marital assets, your inheritance remains entirely yours. He gets nothing." I stood in my kitchen, and felt something shift inside me. Not quite relief, not quite happiness, something quieter but stronger. Justice.